How a Romance Novel Saved the Galaxy by Ariana Deralte. Chapter 27. Mace 2. Mace wasn't going to lie. He was dreading having to go into the council room again. The interminable discussions they were having about the Mandalorians and the multiple branching issues that stemmed from their change of heart, coupled with vague shadow points that seemed to flicker in and out of his vision, meant he'd been taking painkillers non-stop since the Mandalorian's call. He'd also been in meetings with the High Council practically every moment of the day. Yesterday, they had missed dinner discussing if Kara was a proper replacement word for the Force in Mandalorian. Mace had been honored when he was offered a council seat at such a young age after Depa was knighted, even if it was only a temporary position. While the meetings weren't the excitement he had dreamed of as a Padawan, he had thought he could get used to them if he was making a difference on the council that tended to have more senior traditional Jedi Masters. And maybe during a more uneventful time period, he would have. But as it is, he was contemplating not renewing his position when his 2-year term was up. Healer Che had told him when he went to get some meds for his headaches that he couldn't keep using them all the time without them losing their effectiveness. He was standing in one of the anterooms, contemplating the view and also whether he could get away with skipping the next meeting, when Master Terra Sinube, a fellow council member, approached him. "Long council meetings make for long faces, eh, Mace?" said the elder Kazian. He chuckled at his own joke. "Of course, mine is always long." It was always an effort for Mace to remember to call Master Sinube by his first name. The Kazian had been on the council since before Mace could remember. "I don't think we're going to come to an agreement anytime soon, Tara. We do seem to be getting stuck, but we must be patient." The elderly master always advocated patience. It was wise advice, but Mace secretly thought it was because Terra's years of work in Coruscant's underworld had made council meetings seem relaxing and simple in comparison. "Did I ever mention that there was a Jedi in charge of tech for the entire temple?" "No." Mace wondered where Terra was going with this. "Come on, introduce you. It's my duty as your elder." Mace was all for anything that delayed entering the council chambers. He followed the Kazian master down the lift and deep into the heart of the temple, a few levels below the usual main thoroughways. "One of the missions young potential shadows are always given is to find the TICT office and retrieve a piece of data without the Jedi in charge noticing. It can be a challenging mission." Terra was radiating fond amusement into the Force. "TICT?" asked Mace. "Temple infrastructure, communications, and technology." Terra stopped in front of a nondescript door with no label. He laid his hand on it and used the Force to manipulate some mechanisms inside of it before it slid open. The Ardenian inside was staring straight at the door, 2 of their 4 arms still tapping on a wide range of pads. Mace had seen them around the temple occasionally, but didn't know their name. "Shinobi, Windu," they said with a nod to each of them. They reached out with the Force to close the door behind them. "There's a test going on," they explained. Mace focused on the corridors around them and could indeed sense the poorly hidden Force presence of a potential shadow. "Master Ube Vesta is as much of a wizard with tech as they are with the Force," said Terra jovially. Vesta narrowed their eyes. "What do you want?" "Mace here is relatively new to the council and didn't know your office existed." Vesta nodded, then looked at Mace. One furry hand gestured around the room. "This is the TRCT office. Maintenance and security are elsewhere." "Then what is it you do handle?" asked Mace. "The entire temple's communication network, plus the security for said network, and the archives, which are on a separate system. Also any odd tech or slicing requests a Jedi might have." "Odd shadow training," said Mace. Vesta grinned. "Plus some shadow training." Mace had the feeling that it was a lot more than that, but he wasn't going to question any further. He just appreciated this excellent resource Terra had introduced him to. "Now, what's the other thing you want?" asked Vesta, directing his gaze back to Terra. "Must I have an ulterior motive?" asked Terra. "You always have before," said Vesta with a shrug. With a sigh, Terra gave up on his pretense. There was recently a copy of a book sent around the High Council. Jocasta has been sharing it around to others as well. There is no restriction on said book, so I would like for it to be sent to the entirety of the Jedi Order, possibly with orders for them to read it. Mace sent a surprised look at his fellow council member, but Vesta just pursed their lips. You want it sent to everyone. Probably best to leave off the initiates, said Tara after a moment's thought. All initiates learned about reproduction and sex at the age of 12, but it was a good call considering the age range. Vesta scrolled through one of the pads, head down. Poof is always mass sending messages which I catch and delete, said Vesta. I can miss one. That would be perfect, Master Vesta, said Tara with a slight bow, which the master didn't notice, since they were still staring at their pads. The Force was silent on the matter, but Mace felt the stirrings of hope. He could see what Tara was doing here. Once the book was being read by their fellow Jedi, not only would all Jedi have a crash course in Mandalorian culture, but they'd also start bringing some issues to the foray, which would force the Council to start dealing with them. Did Master Thisla even know she was engaged to a Mandalorian? Oh no! Had anyone on the council noticed that she was, other than Mace? Dyke! Perhaps you could send the follow-up comm a week later stating the error, that the comm wasn't for non-council members and they shouldn't read it, suggested Mace. By then, the more dutiful would have already finished it. And the more contrary will then choose to do so if only out of curiosity, Tara said. Excellent idea. Vesta tickled. That can be arranged. Good. We'll leave you to your test in progress, said Tara. Vesta looked unerringly at the right wall where they could all sense the poorly concealed Force presence creeping along a corridor 2 rooms away. I'll be here a while, said Vesta. May the Force be with you, Tsunumi. Window. They raised one hand in farewell. Mace and Tara left. They deliberately headed back in a circuitous route which avoided the Shadowin training. Mace waited until they were far away before he spoke. Tara, out of all the council members, I thought you'd have been the most content with the slow pace of all debates. There is moving slowly, said Tara, and there is stagnating. We are doing one and not the other. The voice sang with the rightness of his words. And now we have a council meeting to get to. Mace didn't grunt in frustration, but he did release said frustration into the Force. Kiri was in electronic shackles that seemed too big for her. She whimpered through the gag at the sight of them. Nared automatically fired at the electronic barrier guarding the cell in front of them, and when that didn't work, drove the butt of his rifle against it. All they got were numb hands from the reverberations. These are restraints for a Jedi. Kiri is not Force-sensitive, said Hyam. Nared suddenly hated how calm he sounded. No, said a voice behind them, but children sure do make great bait, don't they? They pressed a button which dragged Kiri along the floor by her restraints. Stay calm, Kiri, said Hyam. It will be all right.